Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Miscellaneous Gab, and today we are discussing the grand finale, episode 6 of Dune Prophecy. I know it came out a couple weeks ago, but with travel, the holidays, / starting the new year in the hospital, I'm a little behind. Before I begin, comment below and let me know what you guys thought of the first season of Dune Prophecy. Did it hook you? Will you be watching the second season? Spoiler alert, I do have mixed feelings about just everything that happened in this episode, as well as the series in general. Will I watch season 2? Yes, but I do definitely see the strengths and weaknesses of this show. So we begin the episode with a flashback back to what really happened with Mother Dorothea and Sister Valia. We really get to see an even darker side of Sister Valia, and we see that Sister Francesca, that Tula, that Kasha, they've been kind of co-conspirators since the beginning. They know what she did and they stood by her. It's not even what she did to Mother Dorothea, but it's what she ended up doing to Mother Dorothea's followers. The Souk doctor coming back to study this virus with Mother Tula. She volunteers to undergo the kind of cellular transmutation of this virus to see if she can do similar what they do with the water of life. That does not work very well. It's kind of like the more that you try to fight against the virus, the more it takes over your body, and she ultimately succumbs to this virus. So not only did they lose another sister, they lost a Souk doctor. They're kind of back at square one, kind of, where they don't really have an answer on how to deal with this virus. We're back in the suspension cells. I saw this really funny comment of like on another YouTube video saying the Emperor's so broke that he just keeps all of his prisoners in an open facing room so they can just conspire against him till their heart's content. We have to talk about how the Empress basically arrests her daughter. First of all, this scene is really beautiful, especially once Yanez leaves and it's just the Empress kind of eclipsed by the light, by the prison, her moment to shine. She's finally getting some of her revenge and the power that she's wanted for so long that she could have had if only her husband had accepted her counsel at the beginning. I did not understand a lot of this plan. Why did the Empress arrest her own daughter? You would think that the princess is still the key to the throne, and especially if the Empress's goal was to kind of do a mild to moderate coup against her husband but still have him be the puppet, that she'd actually want Yanez on her side. That really didn't make any sense. Maybe that scene served the purpose to break Yanez of any of her loyalty. She's no longer loyal to her father or her mother, and maybe that causes her to run into the open arms of Mother Valia by the end of the episode. Valia learns of Princess Yanez's fate, and then the next part of the plan that doesn't make sense comes into effect. Learning that the Empress arrested her daughter causes Valia to be like, you know what? The Emperor, his reign is over. We have to get rid of the Emperor, ending his life. Francesca says something like, well, I can just convince him to get rid of the Empress, blah, blah, blah. And Valia says, no, a divorce would throw the Imperium into war. There would be conflict. It's like, bitch, what do you think killing the Emperor would do? Francesca is pissed, is like, why are you making me kill my lover? Theodosia's just ready to go. She's ready to use her Tleilaxan origin and become an imposter, a spy. Lila is fighting against her restraints, begging to be let out by Jen. I really have to commend this actress, the Lila actress, on her ability to really feel like she is representing different people, different characters. You see her face just change when she knows she's got Jen to do what she wants, and she's like, all right, Mother Dorothea's here. It's my time to shine. So let's talk about the Emperor for a second. The Emperor probably has the worst day that he's ever had. First, he's telling Francesca, hey, I'll get rid of my wife. You can be around. I want you here. Then he goes to Desmond, who basically tells him, hey, you're a fool. That's what you get for thinking with your other head, kind of a weak man, and you're being played by the Bene Gesserit. Then he figures out that Desmond and his wife are working together. His wife then tells him, hey, it's okay, you can still be emperor at face value, but I'm in charge now. I have Desmond here. You just chose the Sisterhood over him. Guess what? He's my mad dog. He's my Rasputin. So you can wear the crown, but we all know who wears the pants. We all know who has the power. So that's like his second ding. Third zinger is when Mother Valia comes in and he kind of runs to her like a dog with his tail between his legs, like, I'm so sorry, Mother. I believed this crazy guy, Desmond. He's really fucked me over. I need you. Let's restore our relationship. The Sisterhood is welcome back into the Imperium, please and thank you. Valia, who comes in, sits on his damn throne, giving him the biggest dressing down he's ever had in his life. Every power that you think you have has been orchestrated from even before you were born. I control your fate. Your lover, Francesco, we sent her to you. She works for us. Everything has been a lie, and you, sir, you are a weak man. And then he's standing there in front of his guards and is like, arrest her. You can't unhear that. He's having a bad day. So then we have Mother Dorothea coming to fruition, and she doesn't really realize what time zone she's in. She's looking for her other sisters. We have the two acolytes here, right? We have Jen, who is very suspicious, and then we have Emmeline, this one. One of my biggest problems with this show is that we don't have much character development with these two acolytes. They don't really do anything. We know that Jen is gangster in the way that she doesn't have the same visions. She's able to get herself out of these restraints. She's really like kind of Bene Gesserit before it's even Bene Gesserit. She can control her mind. She can control her fear. She can control her body. Then we have Emmeline, who we know that her parents were Butlerian. They were very anti-technology. So it makes sense that she's more orthodox, wanting to go back to Mother Dorothea's ways. We learn a bit more in Mother Valia's plan about Sister Theodosia, that she was a science experiment from Tleilaxan scientists, bioengineers. I've talked about this in previous videos, that in the realm of Dune Messiah, 10,000 years in the future, these face dancers become way more important, because if you think about someone who can assume the face, identity, gender, mannerisms of another human being, that is extremely beneficial. But because this technology is so nascent and she was clearly like a runaway experiment, they're still trying to figure out how they can use it to their advantage. We figure out that Theodosia is being used as part of this plan to impersonate the princess so that they can free the princess. Meanwhile, Francesca has to go murder the emperor. Again, this plan doesn't make a lot of sense to me for many reasons. If the emperor has already shown that he wants to come back to the Sisterhood, why wouldn't you just assume control at that point? You have his lover, he's very pussy whipped, willing to do anything, turned his back on Desmond, is in full support of the Sisterhood now. We realize that Theodosia was supposed to impersonate the princess, but then the princess won't come unless Kieran Atreides joins her. There is no point for Theodosia to be in the prison cells as the princess, because they'll know that the princess would really be gone if Kieran is gone. So then Theodosia dresses up like a guard to stab Desmond Hart, not kill him, and then blow her cover. That was a disappointment to me. That feels like, okay, well, they're just being fan servicey, trying to have the face dancer in there, but there's really no strategy. Then we learn even more about Valia's crimes against humanity, in the sense that she basically forced these other sisters to off themselves, the followers of Dorothea. The Emperor's final scene. Now this scene is beautiful, this room. It almost looks like very vaginal at the top. The Emperor surrounded by all of these women. He has no real power. The vagina, if you will, has power over him in every single way. I guess you could say that. So he's had a bad day. He realizes he has no control over his life. Unaliving himself is kind of his last hurrah of choice. He does that, and then the Empress comes and murks Francesco with the little Gom Jabbar needle. This scene was beautifully shot. I felt the pain from Francesca. I felt the pain and humiliation from the Emperor. I actually thought that Francesca maybe wouldn't go through with it because, you know, Mother Valia, she pushes these people in her life to put duty over love. Then you start to think, how does that conflict with like the love that you have for another human being? So the Emperor goes bye-bye, has had just a real bad day. You know, they're supposed to switch places, Theodosia with Yanez, but she won't go without Kieran. And I feel like it's going to be those two in season 2. And I really don't like them. You could literally replace Kieran with anybody and it would be the same thing. We can't care about these characters and we can't root for these characters until some of that backstory is explained. This episode, especially going back into what Mother Valia has done, it really tells you who not to root for versus who to root for. And I think that's why a lot of people have a problem getting into Dune Prophecy, because you don't really have anyone to root for. Desmond Hart gets stabbed in the gut by Theodosia and is somehow like 100% okay. I hate that kind of plot armor. Like, he was fine during the club explosion, but now he gets stabbed in one of the places that is sure to kill you and make you bleed out, which is the gut. And he's like hopping around, fighting and carrying on with the rest of the episode. I almost wish they had just completely taken that out. I don't think anything would have changed. In this Dune Prophecy, that the one thing that's really missing is the subtlety, the plans within plans, the maneuvering. It's more just people making really rash decisions that don't always make sense. Whereas in the books, you have these tiny little plans, movements within movements, plans within plans that really stack on top of each other. Mother Dorothea / Lila reveals the crimes of the Harkonnen sisters with all of those bodies, skeletons, just below that pond. I think that, I don't know, there could be burn them. But this has massive implications within the power struggle of the Sisterhood. It shows that it's really been like the Harkonnens being this self-serving force, that they would turn their back and force their own sisters to themselves. One thing that we'll want to see is Lila / Dorothea / Raquella. Will the different personalities start to fight each other? Will Lila's mother, who we don't know anything about, ever come to the forefront? How did Dorothea know that the bodies were there when she didn't even know that her comrades were dead? A flashback when Tula has to give her child away, her son. And this is a very heartbreaking, heart-wrenching scene, especially knowing what ends up happening to Desmond Hart. Did this as an act of desperation, an act of love. She realized she was too far gone under her own sister's influence. Now Valia wants to raise her son. Tula didn't want her son to be raised with an agenda. She wanted him to have a chance to have his own path. And it seemed like she wasn't just throwing him away to be raised by wolves. She's been haunted her whole life. So then we have a really brief scene with the Baron Harkonnen where he's been recording Mother Valia's plans. We don't know if Desmond Hart has instructed him to do this. Last we checked, Desmond Hart was giving him these drugs. Perhaps he's addicted to the drug or the spice, what have you. Kieran, who has been beaten to a pulp, is somehow 100% good to go. He's hot to go, ready. Desmond Hart is completely okay after enduring a stab wound to the gut, and then spreads his virus on Mother Valia. Now, originally, I'm not gonna lie to you, I almost fell asleep during this scene. Now, yes, I was tired and jet lagged, I was fighting to stay awake, but I think this last scene went on just a little bit too long. He turns the virus on her, she tries to fight it with strength. Mother Tula, knowing what she knows now, says you kind of have to yield to it, you have to overcome your fear, you can't just fight it with strength. I do feel like they're trying to push this fear narrative a bit too linearly. Mother Valia goes back into her own memory. It's not even really fear, it's guilt, right? It's the guilt that she's responsible for Griffin, her brother who she loves so much, his death. I don't really feel like this scene was as strong as it could be because we were never really given the circumstances of Griffin's death. He's just alive one minute, he's dead the next. We know Vorian Atreides was involved, but without that context, which I have no idea why we don't get that context, but once she's able to overcome that, then she only sees the fear coming from Desmond Hart. So we finally get some answers into Desmond's backstory. We see that the light is not the light of a Honda Honda Civic, it's not the eyes of Paul Atreides, it is a thinking machine. Either captured Desmond Hart after he was swallowed by the sandworm, or maybe that's even a fake memory. Maybe he was never swallowed by the sandworm. Either way, they do some tomfoolery with his eye, putting the virus in the eye. So it's not magic, it is technology. It's not just a rogue thinking machine. Mother Valia did see a figure there. So it's a thinking machine that's overseen by a human being. I enjoyed this reveal. It made me wonder, are those eyes that the sisters drew in their drawing also the eyes of the thinking machine, because they were somehow receiving the fear coming from Desmond? Or are they also seeing the future in some way, some prescience, the eyes of Paul Atreides or his son? This is interesting because I wonder how much of Desmond's motives are because of the thinking machine or the programming versus his own vendetta, right? He had this crazy sandworm swallowing experience. He became kind of a religious zealot. He has his own personal vendetta against the Sisterhood because he was abandoned by his mother. That's like a personal thing. But then he's clearly being weaponized by a greater force, a greater technology, who wants to, at the very least, bring the Sisterhood down, but at the very most maybe cause some other sort of fissure in the Imperium, or maybe even bring back thinking machines. Because we do see the humanity in him. Him and Tula share this moment. Tula commands Valia to stop. Tula and Desmond hold each other. She did love him, and then he calls for her arresting, maybe to keep her close. Maybe he just really needed his mama. And then the episode ends with Valia, Inez, and Kieran Atreides going to Arrakis. Still unclear why they're going to Arrakis. We know Constantine is supposed to be there overseeing his father's fleet. Inez is supposed to be the leader of the Imperium, so why would they be offing her to another world? We expect to see a lot more of Arrakis in season 2. My question is how Dune-like will Arrakis feel? I'm way less interested in Inez and Kieran, and more interested for the fissures within the Sisterhood, the consequences within the balance of power of the Imperium, as well as what is to come of Desmond. I hope that he doesn't just go away. I do understand the criticism of not really having anybody to root for in this. The characters that they want you to root for are not that likable. Given how complicated the world of Dune is and how hard it is to adapt, I think they've done a decent job. I will watch season 2, but I definitely had my what the F moments. What were they thinking? What is this plan? Let me know your guesses. If you'd like to see a separate video with just season 2 predictions. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like. Please subscribe to my channel, and we will chat very soon. Happy New Year, happy 2025, and I appreciate you all being here. Bye.